to another Everything's Coming Up Timberwolves podcast. My name is Gabe Anderson, and I'm joined, as always, by Chris Emerson. Chris, how we doing? It's been a long off season.
Yeah, it has been. It's been fun. I'm doing good, and I'm ready to get into some real Timberwolves time.
Absolutely. So, first thing we got to address before we go anywhere was this tweet that came out by I forget who originally actually I I forget who originally posted it, but the point is that it looks like in some capacity that the original jerseys are coming back, and I know this is something, or when I say original jerseys, I'm talking like 80s to 90s jerseys. The first jersey
Day
Kevin
one.
Garnett wore, probably looking like for sure the whites are coming back. Your reaction to this?
You know my reaction. I mean, look at my background. Look at my hat. Like it's literally the only logo that I care to sport. It's so good. It's so long in the making. I guess I guess now that I'm looking at it, I'm happy that it's happening now, opposed to maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago when we were bad.
Yeah,
So like we're gonna be that logo will be in playoff runs. That logo will be, on the up and coming
right.
Timberwolves who, this is probably depending on what happens with trades or stuff like that, like it's very possible that this is going to be the most talented team we're going to have for a long time. And I
Yeah,
mean, talent isn't exactly what you need. We might end up having to move some high end talent for some a couple pieces of lower end talent just to make the money work. So it's going to be a fun year, and oh man, it's one of the best news I've had.
absolutely. Yeah. So what I have heard is, I heard somewhere, I forget, I'm trying to find the tweet right now. I should have been more prepared. But I heard that they are at least going to, oh yeah, here it is. Here it is. Oh wait, no, that's old. But anyway, I saw a tweet that they are going to at least have one throwback night, um, with the new jerseys, and not only that, they're going to have a corresponding court with it. So
Yep, yep.
anytime,
Which
even,
makes me think
yeah,
it's going to be more than one.
yeah, I think so too. Yeah, and
I
I
mean, they're
like what
not
you were
making a new court for one game.
right, and I like what you said, that I like that they're doing it now, because I feel like
Yeah,
they could have done it in the past, like when the Wolves were what, like 10, 15 games under 500. They could have done like a gimmick night to get people in the arena. Like, for example, you're playing Golden State and you want to sell it out or something.
yeah,
Like in their 73 win season, hey, let's wear the
right,
throwback jerseys on a whim for no reason. Plus,
right.
I mean, number 5 is going to look good in that.
It's not Doug West, baby. That's Anthony Edwards.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little Wolves, and let's talk about number 5. So Ant is going into his 4th season with the Wolves, which is crazy. I think a lot of that craziness is because it feels like we haven't seen him that much, considering that he started slow in his first season, and his first season was COVID bitten, so it was kind of condensed as well. It was a weird first season for Ant and the Wolves in general. Kind of came into, or I really came into form in season 2, and particularly I think he took the next step, particularly in the play, if not in the regular season, in the playoffs last year. Like, some of his performances were just outstanding, willing the Wolves in those games. They didn't win all those games, but obviously because they tough opponent in Denver, but just a huge performance of man. So what are you expecting out of him in year 4? Considering that I was looking at some stats, and Kobe Bryant in his 4th year went from like 22 points a game to like 29 in his 4th year. What do you see out of Ant this year?
I mean, it wouldn't blow my mind if it's a very similar thing to that. I mean, there's been some NBA people, like former players and current players, talking on podcasts that are saying it wouldn't surprise them if Anthony Edwards leads the league in scoring this year, like that type of numbers. Um, he has, the world on a string. He can do whatever he wants. What I would like to see personally is nothing to change offensively. I like how he attacks the rim. I mean, do it more. That would be great. I would like to see him be more consistent defensively. Um, and I think, I think there's something to him being the tip of the arrow defensive kind of guy, the guy who stops the ball dominant player on the other team. We had McDaniels doing that so much, and I think that kind of ended up hurting our rebounding.
Mhm.
McDaniels being 7 foot, terrible rebounder by numbers, but I think that a lot of that's by numbers because when you see him, he doesn't like not hustle. Like he works hard on some offensive boards and stuff. But when you're guarding a guy at the 3 point line, it's hard to get back to rebound. And when you've got all those cross matches and you've got guards defending small forwards and stuff, because your small forwards defending a point guard, sometimes it makes rebounding tricky. So maybe Anthony Edwards and Alexander are going to be doing some of that, and it's going to take some of that off McDaniels and let him be more of a rim protector, be more of a passing lane guy. I mean, he's still going to be, a guy that's going to step up and defend some of the big stars, but I want to see Anthony Edwards take that role on and take that role on consistently.
Mhm. And I think what we saw a lot out of Ant is what we saw, like I was mentioning in those playoff games. What we saw out of Ant in FIBA was taking over and being the guy. Because there were a lot of those games. Like I know they lost the second game against Germany, but particularly like that friendly against Germany, I was watching. Basically, him and Halliburton willed the team back to victory. The only reason that they won was because of Ant, and just seeing him be the guy. And I think I saw Kevin Garnett talking with Paul Pierce on their show, and he was saying that the Wolves finally have a guy that can take the final shot, who's looking for the final shot, and can actually make the final shot. I feel like we haven't had that in years.
Yeah. Maybe it was Sprewell was the last guy we had it because no knock to Kevin Garnett, greatest to ever put on a Timberwolves jersey up to this point.
Mhm.
Um, his biggest knock in his career was he disappeared in the fourth quarter. And that's something that kind of happens with bigs. It's hard for bigs or guys that aren't gonna, break you down off the dribble from the perimeter. It's hard for those guys to be the go-to guy, which has sort of been, troublesome for Karl Anthony Towns going forward is when you're the star player, it's easy for a defense to scheme a way to not let the big get the ball or to make it harder for him to get to his spot. So with Anthony Edwards being the guy and being a ball dominant guard, um, he's he can be it. He can be that guy, and he is that guy. And I don't think there's any question about it. I don't think there's a question on the team. I don't think Karl Anthony Towns is as proud as he is and how confident he is and who he is. I think he himself knows that Anthony Edwards is that guy, and that's going to be a beautiful thing when those two guys can harmonize together.
Absolutely, and I liked what you said, harmonize, because like you said, I was watching the KG clip that I think I sent you, and he wasn't saying,
Yeah.
and Paul Pierce was trying to get him to say, is Cat going to need to step back? Is Cat going to need to like relinquish some shots, and maybe a little, but KG was talking about how he and Pierce in Boston. I mean, obviously, you can debate the skill level between Pierce, Garnett, and Ant Cat, but they didn't step back. They came together as a unit, and everyone else fell in line. And what happened? They won a championship. Now, I'm not suggesting that the Wolves, as constructed right now, have the pieces to win a championship, but I am saying this is the best shot that we've
I
had in
think we do.
years.
I think
You
we
do?
do. I think if everything goes right, we got the pieces to do it. I mean, everyone's going to have to buy in. Everyone's going to have to play their role. Everyone's going to have to, hit big shots when it's time. But we could definitely win a championship. We were what a couple games out of fourth seed in the West, and without Karl Anthony Towns for 55 games, like it's very possible we could. I mean, I wouldn't bet my house on it. I wouldn't say we're the
Right.
favorites, but I would say we're in a, if everything goes right, we got a shot. Um, the thing like you're saying about harmonizing and the beauty to Carl Anthony Towns' game, um, the beauty and the ugly side is the fact that you can't really give him the ball and have him create. That's not his thing. Same as like Kevin Love, not to compare him to, but they're kind of similar in their games where when they're effective, they're finishing the play. Somebody else is going to break down the defense and kick it out to Karl Anthony Towns for the three. Or it's going to be a pick and roll, and Karl Anthony Towns is going to get the ball and roll and dunk. Or he's going to be the one finishing the play more so than creating the play or putting in the work in the front part of the play. And that's where Anthony Edwards steps in. So I mean, those two guys can work wonderful together. Um, I think it's going to be fun, and I think have to change. I think Karl Anthony Towns has to get back to shooting, 7, 8, 9 3-pointers a game.
Yep.
Stay out there. I think Nas is going to have to step up, which I know he will. I think
Oh, yeah.
Rudy's going to have to do his role, but everybody's going to have to understand where they fit. And I think last year was a good experiment year. I think we got enough of like, okay, this is what we can do and this is what we can't do. Now let's put it together and make these pieces actually work right.
Absolutely. So I want, speaking about Nas Reed, and I want to make kind of a comparison here between a Timberwolf who just signed elsewhere. So Jared Vanderbilt signs with the Lakers 4 years, $48 million contract. Meanwhile, we signed Reed to a 3 year, $41 million contract. I'd much rather have Nas on that contract than Vanderbilt on the other contract. I mean, hustle guys, I feel like you can find them anywhere. You can find them now. Now, I'm not saying they're not important, but you can find them um, in the second round of the draft. You can find them undrafted, which is actually where Nas came from. But man, I feel like the steal of the offseason, in my opinion, for the Wolves was getting Nas on that contract.
Getting Nas on any contract was what we needed to do. But yeah, that contract is beautiful. And when you talk to him, he's had a bunch of interviews. He's been a lot more in the media since. And he basically said that he did not ever want to leave Minnesota. Like the way that the Minnesota fans have treated him, the way that the organization has treated him, the way that they've, not given up on him and given him, just given him support and love. He wants to be here. He wanted to be here. So I mean, that's a sign of good things for this organization when you
Mhm.
got a guy that has the opportunity to go and make more money somewhere else and not be sitting behind two, all bigs. But he
Mhm.
still does that because he loves to be here. It's a great sign. And I mean, the best is still to come for Nas. And before he got hurt, the Timberwolves were looking amazing. And he was
Yep.
one of the main reasons why.
Him and Jaden were I what encourages me the most, and I know I keep going back to the Denver playoff series, is how well we played. Okay, maybe not at the beginning. Maybe we were shell shocked at the first couple games, and Denver got out to a 2-0 lead at home. They're going to do that. They won the NBA championship. But how
They're
well
supposed
we
to.
played, yeah, how well we played down the stretch without Nas and Jaden, just it was great. It was guys stepping up. You had Nikhil Alexander Walker hitting those clutch threes from the corner in game 4. But yeah, and that's what gives him the most hope. But mostly Ant, just what we saw out of Ant in the playoffs, and then he hit.
Well,
Yeah, go ahead.
and our roster has gotten so much better since, like just little moves like Shake Milton, Troy
Yeah, we can talk
Brown.
about that. Yeah,
Um, I mean, though we're replacing, Noel, who still doesn't have a job, with
that's
Shake
crazy.
Milton, who who is 6'5", rugged, aggressive defender, and every time that he's had a chance, like I mean, I guess I can't say every time because I don't keep a tight eye on it, but I used to watch the Sixers quite a bit. And there was times when a guy would go down and Shake Milton would have like 4 starts in a row, right? And he would score 20 and 5, like each one of those, like he would put up meaningful numbers in those games. Like he's going to be a very important part. And I just listened to a Tim Connolly interview with Johnny K, and he said that they see Shake Milton as a point guard. They say that he's a point guard to us. So that rate, which is a loose term because point guard, when you have guys like Slow Mo and even Cat as play facilitators as bigs, all you really need to do is bring the ball up and get the offense going,
Mhm.
and defend the other team's, whatever their smallest guy is. But I mean, that's going to be a huge upgrade. Troy Brown shot well last year, but he's one of those guys that's just smart, makes good cuts, like knows how to play the game. We're filling our roster with these guys that are hustle guys that work hard, that know how to play the game, and kind of organizationally smart. All these guys are on the type of contracts that if you want to get another deal, you have to play well. Like none of these guys are
Right.
on long-term deals. They're on deals that are like prove it deals. Even Nas is on a prove it deal where you're not going to relax with your money. You've got to dig deep and keep pushing, which is exactly what you want out of your guys that are coming off the bench.
Mhm. And maybe to go along with the Nas deal, a 3-year deal. I believe the third year is an option, isn't a player option. So maybe even
Yeah,
he's looking into the future. I mean, obviously the future is unknown,
for
but,
sure.
but maybe he's
For
looking into
sure.
the future like, hey, obviously I wanted to work out here, but Rudy's getting older. They might have a need at center coming up here pretty soon. After these two, now
And
obviously
one of
he'll
those
still
guys
need.
might move.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, in talking about Shake Milton a little bit, I watched just some preliminary highlights, and like you said, he would have. I feel like he's a more. I like your comparison. I think he's a more consistent Jalen Noel. I really do, and maybe with a few more point guard capabilities, because there were some times Jalen
Yeah.
Noel would just make boneheaded plays, like just throw the ball
Yeah.
away, dribble it off his foot, something dumb like that. And what I saw to Shake Milton, he's very good. It looks extremely awkward for him, but he's very good at finishing at the rim. Like he can get to
Yes.
the rim and just kind of be the scorer that Jalen Noel was, but I think he's just a little better.
A little more basketball IQ, a little more defensive ability, a little more size. Like maybe not, he's not maybe not so much more like if you took out a measuring tape, that much more taller, but he's just a thicker, bigger guy.
Mhm.
And that's good. And he's more like downhill, like that sort of aggression. Anthony Edwards, like we're building that sort of like kind of bully kind of aggression with our guards. And I love that.
Yeah.
Um, we're going to be able to put a really big team out there. And I think we're going to live and die off it. And I'm here for it.
And you mentioned that kind of where I want to go next is reports. I'm sure everyone saw this. Reports are that Jaden McDaniels is 6'11". What is 6'11"? As tall as Cat, maybe now. Like that's
Yeah,
crazy.
and I think that's always been the case, at least for a couple of years. I think they just get around to actually officially updating some of the Timberwolves like media guides and stuff. So I think that was a surprise to people. But I
Uh huh.
know a year ago, Dane Moore was saying, actually before we got Rudy, Dane Moore was saying that Jaden McDaniels, tallest guy in the Timberwolves. Like this was a year
Hmm.
ago. He's like, I don't know what they're saying, but like when you see these guys on the court walking around, Jaden McDaniels is as tall as anyone else on the Wolves. So that's just even more exciting. I mean, he's a big, strong kid, or he's getting stronger. He's getting his handles. He's working this summer on his dribble package, which is exactly what he needs. And and he's a guy that didn't get a contract.
Yeah.
So he's another guy that needs to show what he can do. Like everyone's been hyping him up based off potential, um, but he needs to show it a little more, and then he's going to be able to cash in. And so it's another guy that's on one of those contracts that he has to prove it this year.
Do you think that we could see like maybe a mid-season re-signing or what? Here's a question to get that. I don't want to, obviously not a max contract. We're not talking that yet, unless he goes out and puts up 25 and 10. Who knows?
Right.
But
Right.
what does he have left to prove to get that contract? Do you think he has anything left to prove, or is it just a matter of we're paying Rudy, we're paying Cat, we're paying Ant. Like we gotta decide what we want to spend on.
I think some of it is, but I mean, some of it is like, as Minnesota Timberwolves fans, we fall in love with guys that are and
Right.
he has warts, like, for example, he's 6 feet tall, like we're talking about, and last year he averaged under 4 rebounds a game. Like, you can't be 7 feet tall on a team that's struggling rebounding, one of the worst rebounding teams, and he averaged 4. Like, that's not acceptable.
Right.
He averaged 12 points. Like, 12 is okay, but I'm not dropping 25. It's hard to drop $25 million on a guy that's averaging 12 points. Like, that's hardly anything. So he's definitely got to step up. Like, his shot was great. Like, his 3-point shot was great, but I think he shot 3 threes a game. Like, that doesn't even matter if it's a good percentage at that point. Like, shoot 6. Like, you've got to make more impact. And maybe that's, maybe he'll take some time off defensively, and won't be the spearhead all the time, and maybe that'll give him some more time, or he'll figure out how to find his way in there. But yeah, he can step up for sure, and he's young, and he will be able to. I don't think there's any reason why he wouldn't, but I'm not cutting a big deal until I see it on the court.
Right. And by the way, to you people who responded, and thank you for responding to our "Should the Wolves trade Jaden McDaniels" video. We weren't saying that we want him to be traded. We were saying this is what potentially could happen if Jaden gets out to a bad start. I don't think either of us are saying, hey, we should go out and trade Jaden. Yeah.
Or even if we decide that there's not much value for Karl Anthony Towns in the trade market, and it's like, well, Karl Anthony Towns is 3 years away, is it? 2 years away from, so let's see. Karl Anthony Towns was, 24 years old. Right now he's 27. So 3 years ago, he put up 26 and a half points, 11 rebounds, and 4.5 assists a game. 26, 11, and 5 almost. That's huge numbers. That's not a guy you trade for next to nothing. So if there's not a big package for him and money's what we're looking to find, it's possible that a guy $25 million that's averaging 12 and 4 isn't the move, And it doesn't mean that he's not a great player. He's a great defensive player and he's got great upside, but only so many pennies in the bank. And I don't know if trading Cat for just salary cap dump is the way to maximize talent on the team. So, yeah, it was just here's an idea that nobody talks about. It's possible that we're not going to cut $28 million for Jaden.
Mm-hmm. I feel like people took the video as like sacrilegious. We're just throwing out ideas. We're throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks here. That's the whole point of YouTube. If we're spitting out the same opinion that everyone else has, then what's the point of that?
Why bother?
Why even come to us? So, by the way, thank you for watching that video. Also, thank you for watching the first 10 games of the season. I'd like to get that a little more traction, but anyway, make sure to check out the Everything's Coming Up Timberwolves YouTube channel. Anyway, moving forward, let's talk Rudy Gobert, because we saw him in FIBA. France obviously didn't do as well as they would have wanted. Not sure how much of that is on Rudy, but I digress. Are you still a believer in the two big men, Cat and Rudy, working? I mean, we saw it working towards the end of the season. Obviously, it got its legs cut off at the beginning. Will they need more time to gel, or will another offseason see them come out of the gates? Coming out of the gates running, because I want to see the Wolves not kind of stall out of the gates like they did last year. They had an easy schedule coming out of the gates last year. and then kind of fumbled. And they don't have. I don't want to call it an easy schedule. I would say a normal schedule coming out of the gates. So Cat and Rudy, can they
Yeah, it's
go
not
into?
that bad.
Yeah, it's not too hard.
I think they can, and I think it's a learning process. Rudy came to the Timberwolves, I think, 8 days before training camp, or like literally
Yep.
left France 8 days before training camp. And when he got here, Karl Anthony Towns was in the middle of losing 30 pounds because of a sickness. So like they didn't really have time to do what they wanted, and like I said earlier, we learned some things in last season, what can work and what doesn't work.
Mhm.
Um, we'll see what Finch can draw up, but I think it needs to work. Rudy Gobert is a huge asset. He damn near leads the league in rebounding every year. He's one of the most efficient scorers in the NBA. He's always like top 5, top 10 in field goal percentage. He's not a guy who's out there hunting a bunch of shots, so he's not taking shots from your stars. And he the dirty work like set picks and screens, which Karl Anthony Towns is miserable at things, picks and screens. So
Yeah.
he
Oh,
fits he
yeah.
fits a lot of holes that we needed. So I hope he works. And for us to succeed at a high level, it has to work. And when it comes down to it, if we want to win it all, we've got to go through Denver now. And Denver's
Uh-huh.
got the biggest, baddest boy on the planet. And the only way to defend a giant man like him is to send some more giant men at him. So we've got a roster full of them now. And I think there's a lot of teams last year in the playoffs that would have loved to have the bigs that we had. So
Mhm.
we'll see what happens, but I think it's very possible for it to work. And I think the way that we clicked last year, right in the playoff time, even without some of our guys, shows that it can work. I mean, Karl Anthony Towns, Rudy Gobert, and Anthony Edwards gave Denver everything that they wanted to deal with. And
Mhm.
I think we can do that again for a whole season.
I agree. And we played over the course of the whole season. As I said in the predictions video, we played them a lot, but we did win 3 games against the champions. We went 3-6 against Denver and 3-2 at home. So I mean that's not too shabby. It's not great, obviously, but they're the champs for a reason, and they have what I consider right now, which is hard for me to say because I'm a LeBron guy. I do believe the best player on the planet in Nikola Jokic.
He's unbelievable.
He really is, and he's unlike, not to go on a Denver tangent, but he's unlike I think anyone we've ever seen in the NBA. Like he does things Embiid doesn't do, just passing the ball, and that's another thing you mentioned that the NBA is going anti bigs. Well, who were the top 2 vote getters for MVP this year? Was Embiid and Jokic. So
and who was third? Probably Giannis. And who's double time MVP? Giannis. He's 7 foot
mhm,
too, or 7 foot also. So yeah, I mean, you've got, I think the last maybe 5 MVPs are all 7 footers. So
mhm,
yeah, I mean, they like to say that it's a guard league or whatever, but these bigs are for real. And now you've got Wembanyama coming in. He was the #1 pick. Year before that, you've got Chet Holmgren. Both
mhm.
those guys over 7 feet tall. Next year, there's a Frenchman coming out that's like 7'2". That's a real legit top 5 guy. Like, I don't think that I don't think it's really a small league. I think what it's starting to come down to is being big is still it's just your bigs have to be
Mhm,
skilled. They can't be,
mhm,
Patrick Ewing where you're going to catch it on the block and do the same running hook shot every single play. You've got to
mhm.
be able to pass, you've got to be able to shoot, you've got to be able to anticipate the defense and help your guys get easy looks because of that. Like, it's a whole package, but bigs are still the ones that are dominating it.
Right. Yeah, and people will come back at that and say, "Oh, Rudy's not looking for a shot." But when you have someone who's skilled like Cat, that kind of negates it. Rudy is just kind of there to play
Right.
defense,
Rudy's
and
defending the other team's bigs. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's a good point. So let's talk about the bench a little bit. We saw, not to go back to FIBA too much, but Kyle Anderson did play for China. Good for him as Chinese nationality. That was something
Never knew
important.
that.
That was something important for him, and he wanted to play for China. So more power to him, man. The more and more, and my friend's a huge Memphis fan, so he's always telling me how much he wishes they still had slow mo. But man, I love his game, particularly complimentary with Shake Milton off the bench. I think there were a lot of times this year where the offense would stall when maybe like it's not on the floor, or obviously when we didn't have Cat. So I don't know. I think
When D'Lo sat.
yeah, for absolutely. So I don't know. I think the bench is going to be greatly improved this year.
Yeah, I mean, because I think a lot of times it's either going to have Rudy or Cat, and then it's going to have slow mo, and then it's going to have Shake, and then I mean, we've got so many different pieces that we can mix around. Nas, I mean, we're going to have it all, and like you said, having a guy like Slow makes Shake Milton not. You don't have to be a super ball dominant point guard play creator.
Right.
Because that's what slow mo is going to be able to do. So. It's great to have. I don't know how long we're going to have slow mo. He's on 1 year deal, and he's not signed into next year. But for the time being, we have him. I'd love to see. I love to see what we got going. I don't know how we're going to play all these guys though. I mean, we've got slow mo, Nas, Cat, and Rudy all being power forwards basically. Slow mo is not so good at small forward statistically, but all these guys playing power forward, there's got to be some minutes somewhere. And let's not forget Garza, Luka.
Yeah, Luka too. And Nate Knight, obviously not part of the equation anymore. He's went over to New York. More power to him. Hope he succeeds over there. I always liked him off the bench. But anyway,
he's in New York now.
Yeah, he's a Knick. Yeah, he signed with the Knicks.
That's right.
Yeah. So what I like
we got Leonard Miller.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That too. Forgot about that as well. So we'll have to see about that too. What I like about slow mo, honestly, because the Wolves traditionally, I don't know why they can't do it, but there's times where they cannot beat a zone defense. Like they look like a fifth grade team that just saw zone for the first time and they're freaking out. So what I've liked about slow mo kind of slots in the middle. Gets a little bounce pass and then just goes up with one hand. I like that offense a lot. So that's honestly what I like a lot about slow mo.
It's like running a zone defense at like the YMCA versus some 50-year-olds. They're like, yeah, we're gonna cut this to pieces because we know exactly what to do. He knows exactly what to do. He knows right where the holes are. Like this will be cakewalk. So yeah, no, he's huge. He's so valuable. My biggest concern about slow mo is that shot. His three-point shot took a huge uptick last year in value. And if that's for real and he can keep shooting like that, we'll see. But up until that time, he was not really making many of them. So that's where his value is going to have to be. It's going to have to stay consistent with that jumper.
Okay, so I think it's about time, and this is always a fun thing to do. We haven't seen the Wolves play in preseason yet, but we're about a month and a half from the opener. So let's just get to it. Where do you think the Wolves finish in the West? Just put it on the table. What do you think?
Well, I say they finish fourth.
Fourth? Okay.
I say that for a lot of the year we'll be top three, and I think we'll fall to fourth and end up finishing at fourth. Who's above them? I have no idea. The West is going to be a nightmare.
Yep.
But I think I'm being all positive. I think we can be fourth.
I'm going to go one lower. I'm going to go fifth. I just think there's some top tier teams in the West. Now, there are a lot of wild cards too that are unknowns. Like we don't know. We think the Lakers are going to be better, but who knows? We don't know about the Clippers with their health.
Maybe.
Yeah, you never know with their health. But I'm going to go fifth. So we're both kind of in the same range, the 4 or 5. I would love to have game 1 of the playoffs at home. That place would be rocking. Like I know that the Twins are about to clinch the division and they're going to have game 1 at home. I don't know. I'm not a big Twins fan, but I can appreciate a crowd who's ready for some playoff success. So, and that's exactly
sure.
what we're hungry for.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a beautiful thing. I think that this season is going to be a huge make or break season for a lot of things that happen with the Timberwolves. I think that, like I said, Slow Mo is on a 1 year deal, so he might be gone. Carl Anthony Towns has been often rumored that he might be traded.
Mhm.
Um, Mike Conley is on the last year of his deal, so it's kind of one of those years where if it doesn't work out, a lot of things might end up changing.
Mhm. Oh, and one more team I do want to mention when we're talking about the West that are a huge question mark because we saw it implode last year when they got their big guy, uh, Dallas. Who knows what Dallas is going to be? Because you love the potential in Luca. Obviously, I mean he's a generational talent. There's no debating that. But they went downhill after they got Kyrie, and I don't really understand why. Maybe it's just I don't know. I've said it for a long time. I feel like other than his run with the Cavs, which a lot of that was LeBron, a lot of it was Kyrie, but a lot of that was LeBron. I feel like Kyrie's just kind of cancerous. I don't know. It's
I
just
agree.
he's shown him and James Harden. They're just, and it's funny because they were on the same team, but they're just not good chemistry guys. They just,
How'd that team do?
yeah, exactly. That's a good point. Uh, yeah, it's crazy they had.
Yeah, when you've got guys that are me first, and you're a superstar, I think it kills your team. I think it kills motivation. I think it kills the guys that do the little things.
Mhm,
Um, and if they're not like Anthony Edwards has this aura about him that everyone loves to be around and loves to play with and loves to work hard for him. Um, I think that is something that keeps the lesser than players working hard. I think that's something Carl Anthony Towns struggled with. I don't think he has that personality that makes people want to play hard next to him. But with Anthony Edwards, I think he has that, and that's huge. Dallas is going to be interesting, but I think they actually took maybe even a talent drop. I mean, they lost Wood.
mhm.
He's solid. He was a big guy off the bench for them. But then there's a team like the Pelicans who
Yeah,
before Zion went down were like a third seed. Who knows what the heck they're going to be?
yeah, exactly.
The West, the West is so deep.
Right. Yeah, it really is tough. I mean, even I think the Wolves will be higher than this team, but even who knows what's going on in Utah? I mean, they still got Clarkson, they still got Markkinen took a huge step last year. They got Walker
Mhm.
Kessler. I mean, who knows? Who knows? Anyone could really jump up. I would still say the class of the West right now, obviously, is Denver, just because it's Denver and they won the championship and
They
they look
got
they look good winning the
they,
championship.
they also got the Hawks dude Tom
Collins.
what the hell is his name?
Collins.
Collins, John
Yep.
Collins.
Yeah.
I mean, you got John Collins, you've got Laurie Marketing. So that team will go Walker Kessler at the 5. They'll go John Collins at the 4, Laurie Marketing at the 3. Then they've got Clarkson. Like that's not a bad squad. I mean, they're gonna
No.
they're gonna make people hurt a little bit, and
I
that's like the bottom of the West.
also it has to be remembered that after years of where will John Collins, I know because I got a friend who's a big Atlanta fan, so he was always in the mix of, oh, where's Collins gonna go? Where's Collins gonna go? After years of, oh, wait, was he gonna go to this team? What kind of haul? Can they get a first round pick for him? He goes for Rudy Gay and a future second round pick. Like they
The
gave
salary
up
dump.
salary dump and they gave up on John Collins. Now, a lot of people say it's Trey Young's fault, but I don't want to get into that. But anyway, let's wrap it up there. Chris, thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, it was beautiful, man. I'm excited to start doing these every week again once the season starts.
Absolutely. So stay tuned to the Everything's Coming Up Timberwolves YouTube channel. We got a tons of great videos coming your way. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And as always, go Wolves.